welcome to the North Carolina School of the Arts. Please take a moment to locate the emergency exit nearest you, keeping in mind that the nearest exit may be behind you. According to state law, smoking is prohibited in the theater, and the use of audio, video, or photographic equipment of any kind is strictly prohibited. Please silence any pagers and cell phones. Thank you, and enjoy the performance.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Lomboo Jason, not
because I hate assimilationist Negroes.
Virgin, that's a funny name for Negro boy that comes from Philadelphia. What do they call you up there?
They call me Mr. Phillips. Many people here who don't know what that means, but I do.
Of all the wonderful things I remember about high school drama club, the one thing I will never forget is the makeup. We kept the makeup in a shoebox in the corner of the dressing room. And white kids could run in and choose from 10, 12 different colors, and mix and match until they found just the right color to match their skin tone. The black kids, we had light Negro and dark Negro. That was it. And I don't mean to put anybody's business out in the street, but nobody was using that dark Negro. I mean, even kids who could have been using charcoal were not using that dark Negro. So here you had all of this beauty, all of this complexity, reduced down to one large tube of light Negro. And all of us bowing under the tyranny of opinion. Tell me something good, damn, damn. Tell me that you love me, yeah. Back in November, when all that election madness was going on, I was at the gym when some news broke, a court decision or something like that. So I ran to the lounge to find out what was going on. There were two white guys sitting on the sofa discussing the events of the past couple of weeks. Yes, there's a sofa at my gym. And one of the guys got up, he left. The other guy turned to me and he began talking about Al Gore. Al Gore this, Al Gore that. Man, I really hope Al wins. And just about the time I figured he was going to high-five me, well, I kind of casually mentioned that, well, I thought the election should have been over weeks ago. You know that deer in the headlights look that people get when they're confronted with something they don't understand? Think back to your high school trig class and all the dumbfounded looks on your classmates' faces. That's the look this guy had. You know, it's kind of like the look that you have right there. And he begins stuttering. Yeah, I know what you mean. Listen, all I want is for my taxes to be lowered. He was still stuttering as I bought my smoothie. Now look, I don't mind discussing the issues. I mean, I'd rather not do it while I'm at the gym, not while I'm sitting on the sofa watching television. But what really irritated me about this guy was that he just assumed, because of the color of my skin, that he knew my politics. Now, granted, with 90% of the black vote having gone to Al Gore, it wasn't an unreasonable assumption. But see, where he had been engaged in personal intercourse with the other guy. With me, well, he never saw me. Never bothered to ask what I thought. He assumed he knew. He could have been talking to any black guy. Well, I don't want to be labeled. I don't want anybody to pin me down, to fit into anyone's box. I don't want to make it easy for anyone to say, oh, I know who he is. Oh, I got him figured out. No, I refuse to allow myself to be reduced to such minimal and one-dimensional size. I'm too big for that. Too complex. I am huge. First you get down on your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Question: when did my racial identity become dependent on my political ideology? And who anointed some folks the right to stand at the door, checking ideological credentials and ripping up membership cards if I refused to hoe rows on the Democratic plantation? You know, back during that same time, a good friend of mine sent me an email with a petition attached for a revote in Florida. You gotta believe me. I am really trying not to get involved in these political discussions, especially with friends. There's no upside. But I did respond, something benign like, well, the ballots were legal, so I don't see any need for a revote. And then I went on and I asked her about her family. Hey, how's your husband doing? How's that cute kid of yours? You know, my wife has started her own business. Our baby, he's got another tooth. He's walking now. Her 4-word response was, are you a Republican? I replied, would you love me less? Sadly, I think the answer is yes. My sister, who I love dearly, tells me she's ashamed for anyone to know that her little brother is a Republican. Doesn't know how my wife can bear to sleep with me. Now, first of all, I am not a Republican. Secondly, my little sister has alternately been a lesbian, a drug addict, in and out of mental hospitals. She has issues. But I've never heard my sister say, I'm ashamed of you. I didn't know how your husband can bear to sleep with you. Somewhere in between the lesbianism and the drug addiction, she decided she had to get married. It's all very complicated. But the point is, me, she's ashamed of. And why? Well, let's examine. I believe that so long as the fruits of my labor are not truly my own, so long as my private property is not truly private, then I am not a free man. And I reject servitude to men or to the state. Okay, a black man rejecting servitude. Yeah, that is a bit weird. I'm going to try one more. I believe that I am better able than the state to determine for my children what is right and what is moral. And I believe in the ability of my fellow citizens to do the same. Okay, that's just bizarre. Give me one more chance. I believe in an American character, a character rooted deeply in a foundation of morality and faith, a character which without government largesse will deliver the promise of opportunity, democracy, and liberty to all of her citizens. Yeah, I guess I understand why she's ashamed. Some people have such a hard time with the idea of a black Republican, which I'm not. But, you know, look, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. Let me take you back. September 1974. Little Seals and Croft playing on your AM transistor radio. Maybe some Three Dog Night. Denver, Colorado. That's where my story begins. And like so many autumn days in Denver, the brightness of the sun belies the crisp chill in the air. Place junior high school, 8th grade English class. And not just regular English, mind you. No, accelerated English class. My teacher was Miss Smith. Her class stands as a monument to me, a shrine to all that is cold and cruel about this world. Now, I don't remember what the discussion was about, but after what I'm certain was an insightful observation on my part, a black girl from across the room raised her hand and announced to the class, "He talked like a white boy." Now, what that had to do with the discussion, I don't know. Why she felt the need to share that little observation with the rest of the class, I also don't know. But one thing I do know is that in an accelerated English class, she should have been corrected immediately. No, Lakeisha! Joseph speaks like a white boy. Class, repeat after me. Joseph speaks like a white boy. Oh, very good. Now, Lakeisha, you try it. Miss Smith, Joseph speaks like a white boy. Oh, good! Spotlight! Bang! And me not even knowing how to tap dance. What did she mean? Did she mean I spoke clearly? Or sounded intelligent? That there was some timbre missing from my voice? And at 12, should one have timbre? Well, I didn't know then, and I don't know now. But one thing is clear. That moment was not only the beginning of junior high school, it was the beginning of my life. Because in that moment, I discovered I was different. I mean, until then, I never knew that there was anything wrong with the way I spoke, that raising my hand in class was acting white. I never knew how ugly the word Uncle Tom was, how hurtful. In that moment, the tyranny of opinion was made painfully clear. You see, my definition of blackness was unimportant. No, that was left to the anointed. And no matter how idiotic, arcane, or nihilistic their definition, any deviation would be met with swiftly and decisively. So there you have it. At the tender age of 12 years old, with absolutely no warning, my membership credentials to the Brotherhood were confiscated and ripped to shreds. I was officially cast as an outsider. A black kid, growing up in a Jewish neighborhood in Denver, Colorado. My parents should have just named me Oreo Cookie. I didn't have a brain. Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. When she walks, it's like a samba that swings so low and moves so easy. And when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. I started 8th grade after spending 7th grade in a private school. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Those first couple of days, I was in culture shock. I mean, something had happened while I was away at private school. The kids who I was in elementary school with, kids whose birthday parties I went to, kids who I played Little League with, kids whose bar mitzvahs I went to, kids who were just kids I knew from the neighborhood, were suddenly white kids. And the kids I didn't know, kids who'd been bussed in from across town, they were black kids. There was no two ways about it. There was a very clear and deep line drawn. For example, every day at lunch, and I mean every day, there was a football game played on a dirt field outside of the lunchroom. White kids on one side, black kids on the other. These games were intense, serious business. And still remember the dust flying, the grunting. And you know, contrary to that new way of thinking, oh, kids aren't interested in keeping score, it just breeds too much competition. You better believe that they kept score. Some days the white kids would win, and some days the black kids would win. But every day they would rush through lunch to get out on that field and continue the struggle. Well, I was caught betwixt and between. My old friends distant because I was black. The new kids antagonistic because I lived in Honkyville and talked like a white boy. I didn't play. play badly. After all, I had played Little League with or against most of the kids on the white team, none of the kids on the black team. I knew I was as good as those boys, better than some of them. But if I had played, whose team would I have played on? I wanted so badly to fit in. You know, when you're that age, all you want is to be like the other kids. And I did. I wanted to be like those kids. I wanted to be like those black kids that walked with that swagger, with that rhythm, with that cool. And I tried. I really did. You know my best friend? He grew up in a white neighborhood too. And he spent all of his elementary school in a private school, and he started 7th grade, 8th grade at the same time I did, and he started junior high school at a junior high school a few miles from mine, and just like me, he wanted to fit in. So we spent that entire first weekend after school started calling each other niggers. You know, like, nigga please. Nigga, what you talking about? Only with us, our proper speech kept getting in the way, so it was more like, nigger please, nigger what are you talking about? But the whole weekend it was nigger this, nigger that, nigger, nigger, nigger. My head was spinning till finally Sunday night I was exhausted. I couldn't do it anymore. You know, maybe I should have kept trying. Maybe if I had, my life would be different today. But I just couldn't. It felt phony, like I was putting something on, like I was trying to be something I wasn't. You know, Paul Laurence Dunbar talks about wearing the mask. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks, shades our eyes. This debt we owe to human guile through torn and bleeding hearts. We smile and mouth with myriad subtleties. You know, since that time, I don't think a week has gone by that someone hasn't commented on my proper speech. A guy I worked with years ago nicknamed me Professor Lombooza Lomboo, and he swore that the professor was an actual character from his Trinidadian youth who one day wandered too far out into the ocean, and rather than call out, "Help! Help!" story has it that the professor raised his hand and said, "Excuse me, may I have some assistance, please? What goes up must come down. Spinning wheels, turning around. Talk about your money, it's a crying shame. Ride a painted pony, let the spinning wheel turn." Question: when did I embrace the identity of the outsider and look for opportunities to exploit it? High school. You know, actually, high school brought me some relief. You know, kids mature, hormones kick in. Guys were suddenly too interested in girls to spend much time torturing me. So I went from being called an Uncle Tom almost every day to simply being corny, which was a distinction without a difference as far as I was concerned. And then there was the music. Now, I'm going to admit, right here, right now, I was a closet Parliament Funkadelic fan. Now, I've never admitted that to anyone else, so y'all should feel very, very privileged. But I loved Parliament Funkadelic. Mothership Connection, if you hear any noise, it's just me and the boys getting it. I love that! Woo! Why did those kids have to like that song? See, on the musical spectrum, Parliament Funkadelic is on one side and Led Zeppelin is on the other. Now, I associated Parliament Funkadelic with the black kids, specifically the black kids who've been making my life miserable since the 8th grade, and Led Zeppelin with the white kids. And I don't mean just white kids, I mean really white kids. Now, look, I like music. Doesn't matter who's singing it, what kind of music it is. If I like the song, I like it. But in high school, in order to to maintain this individualist territory I had staked out for myself, I suddenly had to become very careful about the music I liked. The music I admitted to liking. See, I could listen to all of the Earth, Wind and Fire, Commodores, Heat Wave, Switch, remember Switch? Middle Ground. I could listen to Rufus and Chaka Khan. I love Chaka Khan. I still do. Even at 260 pounds, Chaka still but that was Middle Ground. And then on the other side, Chicago, Steely Dan. I mean, everybody liked Asia. That was cool white boy music. But Led Zeppelin? No way. No way. And I love Stairway to Heaven. I still think it's one of the greatest songs ever written. But I wasn't going to admit that to my white friends. I refused to give it up for Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, any of that kind of stuff for fear of sounding too white. Hey, man! I can't listen to that. That's lame. No soul. And then with my black friends, Dr. Funkenstein, Baby I Am the Big Pill, what is that? And of course it sounded so much more refined and intellectual to say that I was into jazz. And really, isn't that what they expected anyway? No thank you, I'm into jazz. No thank you, I like jazz. Jazz meaning George Benson. No one else, just George. So here I was, kind of tenuously maintaining this middle ground. Black, but not too black, white, but not too white, when rap hit. Ah! I was fucked! Sugar Hill Gang had to go and write a 14-minute song about... What the hell was that song about? When I got into college, that was the shit. I mean, everybody was listening to that. And not just listening to it, memorizing the lyrics. Well, I wasn't going to memorize any lyrics. Not if everybody was doing it, especially not if the black kids were doing it. I could sing you all of the words to You Make Me Feel Brand New by the Stylistics. But I couldn't, and I still can't, rap the words to Rapper's Delight. I eventually did give it up for Curtis Blow and the Breaks. But I was late. I was late because I was standing on the outside, refusing to join the party for fear of conforming, for fear of being anyone's stereotype. And it just got worse. I returned home from college ready to embrace rap, and my black friends were listening to John Cougar Mellencamp. They call Alabama the Crimson Tide. Call me Deacon Blue, Deacon Blue. Junior year, second semester biology class. Seeing assignments and put me next to a really pretty girl. She was a white girl. She was beautiful. Looked like a model. I'm not going to describe her for you, namely because I don't really remember what she looked like, just that she looked good. But also, I want you to personalize her image, Whatever a fine 10th grade white girl looks like to you, that's what she looked like. I remember one day in class we did an experiment. We had to put our hands over our lab partner's chests, count the number of heartbeats. I damn near passed out. That's how fine she was. So, one day in class, some trouble breaks out. I don't know what started. I'm sure it was something silly. I just remember it was a white guy fighting with a black guy. Actually, that's not really true. If it had been Kung Fu, the white guy's stance would have been called duck and cover. He was getting his ass beat. And so, the action moved over in front of our desk. Now, the teacher, Mr. Bolliker, he was like an hour away from retirement, so he wasn't about to step in the middle of anything. He wasn't stopping the fight. He was standing there watching the action with the rest of us. And I remember standing there, and I'm watching the black guy pound away, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't want to be your lab partner. When I hear the white girl say, stop it, just leave him alone, you stupid nigger. Silence. The fight stopped. The class was stunned. I was stunned. Mr. Bolliker's having a heart attack. The black girl girl looks at the girl, she finds religion. She starts stuttering. Well, I'm sorry, I just wanted you to stop. I just wanted you to leave him alone. The bell rings. The black guy gives the girl one of those, I'm gonna get you after school looks, and leaves. Girls flock to find white girl, say, don't go to your next class, go to the office. Fine white girl turns to me, says, will you escort me to the office? Stupid black guy says, sure. Excuse me. May I have some assistance, please? The science rooms were on the opposite side of the building from the offices. So we walked through the entire school, her arm wrapped in mine like we're going to the damn prom or something. And the whole way she's shaking like a leaf, rattling, literally rattling on and on about how sorry she is, how she didn't really mean it, how different I am. And me, I'm standing there with a stupid grin on my face, and I'm saying to myself, man, are you out of your mind? Didn't she just call some guy a nigger? And surely she can't think that I'm going to fight for her if she gets jumped. I'm as scared of that guy as she is. It's not like she's going to be my girlfriend, not that I would mind. I hated myself. For the first time in my life, I started thinking maybe all those ugly things the kids said about me were true. Maybe I am a Tom. Maybe I don't really know what the real deal is. Maybe I do think I'm better than somebody because I got some white friends. You know, why couldn't it have just been as simple as a guy had a bit of a crush on a pretty girl, didn't think she should get the snot beat out of her because she said something stupid. Don't call me nigger, whitey. Don't call me whitey, nigger. New York City. Wow. So big, so fast, so loud. My first year at NYU, a group of us decide we're going to go down to the village and check out the Halloween parade. Man, if you've never been, you got to go. It's like Mardi Gras times 10. So we go down to the village and we check out all the crazy costumes and the outrageous people, and I get a little crazy, and I get a little loud, and then I hear my classmate Harry Miller whisper to another classmate, I always knew there was some nigga in here. First instinct was to turn around and smack him in the mouth. And I thought, no, what good is kicking his ass gonna do? What, he's gonna talk softer the next time he insults me? No. Half the straight population, all of the gay population in New York is in the village getting loud. I get loud, I'm a nigger. You know what that makes Carrie? An idiot. Sometime later, I'm returning home from a commercial shoot, and I strike up a conversation with one of the other actors. He guesses I'm not from New York. I tell him I'm from Denver, Colorado. Somehow it comes up that I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood. At that moment, the driver of the car turns around and says, I knew it! I've been telling myself all day there's some Jew in that guy. So which am I? Maybe I'm neither. Maybe I'm both. It would be cool, but can you imagine some doobie in your funk? Ha! W-E-F-U-N-K. Make my funk the P-funk. I want my funk funked up. I want to party with the P-funk. Question, would you have walked a black girl to the office if she'd called someone an Uncle Tom? I have tried to walk with black women and more after they've done just as bad. She was a fine white girl. Besides, she didn't call me a nigger. Frida Jackson! Frida Jackson! Oh, I love me some Frida J. Woo! Of course, Frida never called me any names. I mean, sometimes she wasn't too nice to me, but she did like me, I think. She kissed me once, made my toes curl. Of course, I heard when she got to college, she did a lot more than kiss everybody. Reminds me of a joke the guy told me, what's the difference between a bitch and a whore? A whore fucks everyone, a bitch fucks everyone but you. So what was my problem? Corniness. One night I took her to the movies. Don't ask me what we saw. I don't know. I wasn't paying any attention. All I could think about was how bad I wanted to put my arm around that soft brown shoulder. But I was too nervous. The professor in me came out. Sir, compose yourself. Count to 10, then place your hand on the lady's shoulder. All right. 8, 9, 10. How stupid I was being, and then I just threw my arm around her shoulder, literally banging my knuckles into the hard part of the seat. And of course I was too nervous to move my arm, so after about an hour my shoulder cramped up. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm just enjoying the movie. Oh. Yeah, I was not too swift on the uptake, but I adored her. I treated her like a queen. Picnics in the park. I used to drive by her house and sing out my car window. Let's get serious. Let's get serious. Let's get serious and fall in love. Jermaine Jackson's hit from the summer of '80. Yeah, that was good. Well, I know that now. But at the time, I mean, nobody else was driving by her house singing love songs out the window. Obviously, that was not the way to her heart. But you know, in the years that have passed, I have discovered the real reason that this did not blossom into true romance, or at the very least, some summer note. The not black enough syndrome. The not black enough syndrome. This is an actual syndrome. Black women like the jive talk. I'm not making this up. It's in the book, Black Rage. It's written by 2 black psychiatrists, experts, page 127, page 127. Look them up for yourself. And I quote, I got the shit memorized. A group of black men was asked to describe their techniques of seduction. Without exception, each said that at a crucial moment, he reverted to the patois. But they go further. Black women said that they experienced an intensification of excitement when their lovers reverted to the old language. Now, I'm reading this, and I'm saying to myself, when you write a show, you can get up here, okay? So I'm reading this, and I'm saying to myself, you mean to tell me that the only thing standing between me and more poontang than I can shake a stick at is patois? Oh. Well, I don't have the patois. Why? Why don't college, right? No! I meant white guys that she dated who didn't have a pot to piss in. Frankly, they were not as cute as me. So last year, I'm listening to the radio and I hear an interview where she's talking about how she loves really thuggish black guys. And then she goes on to say that she likes corny white guys, but not corny black guys. And yes, I took that just a bit personally. I mean, what a chip. Here I am, educated, expanding my mind, and the street thug gets to bang Robin Gibbons? What the hell is that? Let me tell you something. I refuse to fake the funk for anyone, including Robin Gibbons. As a matter of fact, starting now, I am embracing my corniness and I'm urging all corny black guys to do the same thing. We'll form a group. We will petition the NAACP to urge black women to give us equal access to voting. Are you with me? Hey, y'all! Where the white women at? Yeah! Yes, I dabbled. But clearly I was having enough problems with black women that I didn't see the need to throw the added burden of race into the mix. So I never really went whole hog. But that didn't stop the assumptions. Now my first big job was at the Repertory Theater of St. Louis. Now, if you're like me, when you hear St. Louis, you think of black folks, which is to say that you're pretty sure you're going to see some black folks in St. Louis. But the Repertory Theater of St. Louis is not in St. Louis. It's on the campus of Webster University in Webster Groves. And Webster Groves is exactly what it sounds like. Kid and Bud live down the street. The Bee lives around the corner. The only black people I saw were in the cast. So, me being young, dumb, full of cum, couldn't wait to give up some, I began dating a couple of young poets. Now, later on, it gets back to me that the women in the cast, that is to say, Esther Roll, who was more than twice my age, another black woman who was almost twice my age and dating another cast member, and a third woman who was my age but engaged, had all decided that I liked my women on the exotic side. Translation, he likes white girls. Now, the absurdity of this just astounds me to this day. Let's just examine the facts, okay? 22-year-old man, professional actor working out of town. 19-year-old girls throwing their panties at me. Of course I like white girls! But wait. In order to show solidarity to these women and to African women throughout the world, I am to forswear this poontang and turn my back on these nubile young pale beauties. And what? Sport Esther Roll on my arm? Hey everybody, look! I'm back in Florida! Well, I may be crazy, but I ain't no fool. I did go for bad once. I fell in love with a white girl named Catherine. I used to call her Lady Catherine. So you see, I could be just as corny with the white girls as I was with the black girls. And I thought we were soulmates. I used to write her long letters declaring my undying love and devotion. And she broke my heart. And I remember the last time I spoke to her, I hung up the phone, there were tears running down my face. And I found myself saying, she's just a white girl. She's not worth any of this. You will never, ever cry over a white woman again. And I have. I mean, black women have given me plenty of heartache. But that was the last white woman I was involved with. Hollywood, Hollywood. You know, this black, not black enough thing to me is like that vaudeville routine, Slowly I Turn. Do you know this routine? There is a word or a phrase that just sets one of the players off. Now, the straight man is trying to have a conversation, and he can't help but say that word or that phrase. And every time he does, the other guy goes into this rant beginning with, slowly I turned, step by step, inch by inch. You know, I just got a great idea. Why don't we do a little experiment here? Everybody, repeat after me. Joseph speaks like a white boy. Joseph speaks like a white boy. Slowly I turn, step by step, inch by inch. See, I told you. When I first got out of school, the only alcoholics I knew were actors. Now I understand why. I have devoted my life to an industry that is all about the superficial, all about perceptions, markets in human flesh. I have become a prostitute who is not good at oral sex, doomed to a lifetime of frustration and getting screwed in the behind. Okay, the last part was a bit over the top. You have no idea how many times in my 20-year career I have come across a breakdown for a role, and it has said something to the effect of, he is an attractive African-American neurosurgeon who is street smart. Black men are always described as being street smart, having edge. It is so tiring. But you know, unlike in junior high school, I have not given up. I've simply learned to finesse my auditions a bit. For example, if the line is something like, listen, you can't do that, I might go in and I'll say something like, listen, man, you can't do that. Or, hey, brother, you can't be doing that. Or, check it out, dog. You got to chill with that shit. Of course, I've never gone that far, but it's not out of the question. We wear the mask that grins and lies, hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we owe to human guile through torn and bleeding hearts, we smile and mouth with myriad subtleties. And still I hear all the time, we like Joseph, we're just looking for someone more street. Guess I'm still hitting my R's too hard. I'm not making this up. I had actually not been seen for the role of a doctor because I wasn't street enough. That's right. Only in oh so liberal Hollywood do black doctors not sound like they spent 8 years studying Latin. Abba! Forgive them, they know not what they do. Ice-T. How do you like him to walk into your hospital room? You know, I'm feeling much better, Doc. Time out. You know, I really want to talk about this. And I want to talk about it in a way that doesn't make me sound so bitter. Proud of it, ashamed, but I'm bitter. Look, I'm 40 years old. When I look back over my career and I compare it to the lofty ideals that I had when I first got into the business, well, it just doesn't match up. But you know, my bitterness also has an added dimension to it. Now, look, rejection is just part of the game. I know that. That's one of the first things they tell you when you step off the bus. Do not take this personally. But you see, in Hollywood, You are oftentimes hired precisely because of who you are, which is to say, while I may be able to act street, there are guys who are street, and that's why they get hired. So in a very real way, each rejection is a way of saying, not you. Every rejection tells me again, you talk like a white boy. You aren't black enough. Slowly I turned. You see? I'm caught in this macabre replaying of this vaudeville routine over and over again every day of my life. Like Prometheus, I'm chained to a rock while this huge bird swoops down to eat out my liver with a side of fava beans and a nice Chianti. Question. Did I become an actor in order to relive the rejection of my youth? And is my being a black conservative further evidence of that pathology? Let me tell you why I became an actor. When I'm on stage, I feel truly happy, free. There is nothing in my life that gives me the adrenaline rush of the opening night curtain or the beauty of the overture playing. There is no place in my life where I feel as content, as beautiful, as powerful as when I am on stage. So no, I didn't choose this profession, it chose me. And I didn't accept the invitation in order to fulfill some repressed need to be rejected. No, I accepted the invitation because this seductress promised me the opportunity to be content, to be loved, to be powerful, to be all of the things I was not as a boy. So you see, this bitterness also stems from a promise unfulfilled. And you know, sadly enough, sometimes the promise is broken by the least likely suspects. That is to say, black casting directors, producers, writers, directors. Let me tell you how deep this goes and how bitter, how petty I can be. To this day, I have not seen the film Soul Food or watched the television series. I refuse. I was on hold for that project for 3 weeks. I lobbied every way I knew how. But alas, I could not overcome the perception of me being too corny to play Vivica Fox's husband. Now, the trailer ends with Robbie Reed. And for those of you who don't know, Robbie Reed is a casting director, manager, and was one of the producers of the film. Now, for years, I tried to get in on films that Robbie was casting. No luck. I heard she didn't like me. I wasn't black enough for her tastes. Now, in all fairness to Robbie, I don't know that she ever said that. I don't know that she ever felt that way. It's all secondhand information. But it seems very curious to me that I would be on hold for a project for 3 weeks, and then one of the producers, who as a casting director has refused to see me for 10 years, makes the decision not to hire me, and the L7 factor is cited. It'll be a cold day in hell before I watch that film. Picnic, whoa, whoa, Surrey down to a stone soul picnic, Surrey down to a stone soul picnic. There will be lots of time and wine, red, yellow, honey, sassafras, and moonshine. You know, for so much of my life, I have been accused of wanting to be white. I have never wanted to be white. I have only wanted to be what I am, or more precisely, who I am. I am JC, and I am black. I mean dark, like Wesley, with his smoldering sexuality. I have the swagger and defiance of Lawrence Fishburne, the good looks of Denzel, the humor of Eddie Murphy, the voice of Ving Rhames. You hear me, farm boy? I'm about to get medieval on your ass. Eat your heart out, Frida Jackson. That is exactly who I see myself as. I mean, I know I'm still Joseph. But let me try to explain it this way. Because of my corniness, I've had the opportunity to work with some beautiful women. Halle Berry, Jasmine Guy, Lisa Bonet, Troy Bear, Vivica Fox, Angel Brooks, Angela Bassett. So what the hell am I complaining about, right? It wasn't me. It was Joseph. It wasn't JC. I don't see myself as the corny guy in the suit. I mean, yeah, I've had love scenes with beautiful women, but they've all been rather benign. No, I want to be like Wesley. You know, just pour the champagne over the girl, and then just knock her off the counter because I'm disgusted, or because I'm distracted. You know, I'm a black man with things on my mind. It's me. I want to be the cool, jive-talking, suave black man that Whitey can't control. I want to be Shaft. I mean, think about it. Shaft was the ultimate individualist hero. He hung out at Cafe Reggio, for Christ's sakes. I mean, he lived in the village. He worked in Harlem. He dated black women, white women. It didn't matter. He was affiliated with no groups, but he was respected by all of them. That's me. I want to be the cat who won't come out. I want to be so complicated that only my woman understands me. I want to be a bad mother. But I'm talking about Joseph. Then we can dig in. Yay! Question. When did you turn to the dark side? Or become enlightened? Depending on what you said. Look, in the same way that I did not become an actor in order to fulfill some repressed need to be rejected, I did not become a conservative in order to be further abused by the anointed. This didn't happen overnight. This was a gradual thing. Look, I used to be as liberal as they come. Teddy Kennedy for president! If not somewhat misguided. I was at Jesse Run rallies in the 80s. I was there when Mondale and Dukakis went down in flames. I was there, man. I remember. But something started to happen. A few years ago, I was at a party being thrown by a recent college graduate. She was just so just full of innocence and life. Just had a beautiful spirit. Beautiful body. What the hell do you think I was doing there? But anyway, we're all sitting around. We're talking, laughing, listening to music on the stereo, and she and her friends began talking about some of the progressive changes that are taking place on their respective campuses. Changes that they thought were right on time, you know, long overdue. And I'm talking about changes like all black dormitories or a black theater building being built on the campus. So, you know, I'm eager to impress this PYT, so I jumped in the conversation and I began, you know, questioning not the motive behind, but the result of some of these policies. I mean, because after all, there was a time when black people marched against separate facilities. Now we were demanding them, and why build a separate black theater building on the campus? Why not just incorporate those plays into your theater program's repertoire and then cast all your black drama majors in all the plays produced? Hey, there's a novel idea. Look, you gotta understand. I went through this last bit of liberal tripe while I was at NYU. See, the liberals there had what they called the Third World Project. Translation, the Black Project. Because the foreign students didn't participate, just the black students. I remember putting a sign up on the bulletin board. I never knew that Denver was in the third world. You know, it amazes me that they really didn't see that their political correctness was insulting, it was patronizing. So again, their hearts were in the right places. But now the result was that now the white directing students had a legitimate reason not to cast us in their shows. They didn't even have to think about us. We had our own shit. So the result was separate and very much unequal. But anyway, so, you know, I'm jumping in the conversation, I'm laying down all my wisdom when... Did somebody fart? I realize I'm bringing the party down. And why? I mean, I'm just saying what I was raised to believe by two lifelong Democrats, mind you, that we ought to be included and not excluded. I mean, what is evil about that? What is immoral about that? But here I am, man, I'm trying desperately to salvage this evening, still win a ticket to Nookie Island. Hey, Mariah, yeah, that's my girl. Party over here. Oh, was at the Martin Luther King Jr. parade. I was there with my fraternity, the oldest and the coldest, Alpha Phi Alpha. Oh, 06! We marched in the parade. I was very, very proud. On the way home, one of the brothers in the car began talking about the need for black folks to really pull together now that W. Bush had been elected. And he said it so easily, so casually, as if naturally everyone agreed with him. And certainly most of the brothers did. There ensued a very brief discussion on the stolen elections and circling wagons, and I just turned and stared out the window. I don't agree. There is another side, other perspectives. I rode in silence, getting angrier and angrier with each passing block. Not because I disagreed with the substance of the discussion, but because I didn't feel free to participate. On this day, in celebration of this man's life, in the company of these men, my opinion was not welcome. Can you say Joseph speaks like a white boy? Diversity! What does that mean if not difference? But not to the anointed? No. They don't want diversity of thought. Oh, heavens no. They want everyone to look like us, talk like us, think like us. And anyone who thinks outside of the box has their membership credentials confiscated. And just like in junior high school, the anointed are ruthless in their enforcement. Uncle Tom! Judas! Apologist to the white man! My sister told me she was going to wear black when W. Bush was inaugurated. I said, what about Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice? House Negroes, she said. Hey, it's just politics, nothing personal, baby. Wrong! The political is personal, especially when my right to define who I am is being usurped. And nowhere is this collectivist mentality more apparent than on the internet. Here, in a world made up entirely of electronic impulses, the race police are ever vigilant. And now, unable to tell the total quality of my voice, now to the guard standing at the gateway to the Brotherhood, I no longer speak like a white boy. I now think like a white boy. While on the message boards at newian.com, a woman posted me that she looked for my profile on AOL, unable to find it. She was sure I was an instigator. Translation, you must be white. No, I'm black. Thank you very much. Please stay on point. Well, then, you must be an Uncle Tom who's never done anything to help the black community. I'll have you know I've done plenty to help the black community. Every time I see a black child, I give him $1. And don't let it be anything really, really sensitive. Lumia! Affirmative action! All I can say is it's a good thing they didn't have my home address. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's the song I sing. You know, the most beautiful woman I ever worked with. No, not Halle Berry. Rosalind Cash. I adored her. Roz used to tease me. Oh, I know who you like to read. You like Stanley Crouch and Cornel West. It was much worse than she had guessed. I was also reading Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams, listening to Howard Stern on the way to work in the morning. But Roz was a beautiful, graceful woman. And I will never forget the exchange we had when we first met. Roz was part of a panel discussion on blacks on television. And there was a lot of grumbling about coon shows and the like. And I stood up and I said, you know, I think we're being a little too hard on actors who accept jobs in debatably offensive programs when people have got to eat. People have got to put food on their tables. this from the first black woman to dread her hair in Hollywood. And she didn't work for years because of it. Now, Roz and I differed politically, but she was really talking the truth then, wasn't she? I mean, that's what it's about, taking a stand. I mean, whether you're an actor or in life in general, you have got to define who you are, what you are about. Draw your line in the sand, and then have the courage to follow through. I miss her. As I walked out on the streets of Laredo, as I walked out on Laredo one day, I spied a young cowboy dressed up in white linen. Dressed up in white linen and cold as the clay. My best friend threw a birthday party for his little girl. Just a few close friends, family, nothing big. Now, before I even get to the house, I'm having the conversation with myself. Joseph, do not talk politics. I don't care what anyone says, you just smile like a mental patient. So right away, my buddy's father, he starts in on it. So, what'd you think about the election? And I was cool. I was very cool. I mean, I just kept eating. So long as my mouth was full, I couldn't talk. And then his mother, she joined in. Did Al Gore concede? I mean, did he actually use that word? Oh, he didn't have to do that. Not for us. Would you please pass the chicken? So what'd you think of Al Gore's speech? Well, I just don't see how anybody could have voted for Bush. Not after what Clinton and Gore did for the economy. Well, actually, the economic boom began under Ronald Reagan. Who said that? So, you voted for Bush? No, I didn't say that, son. Reagan Bush didn't do anything for you. So what, you were living fat under Jimmy Carter? He did vote for George Bush. No, I didn't. I'm just saying that I'm gonna go eat in the kitchen. How could I let myself get drawn into that conversation? So here I am, I'm in the kitchen, by myself, watching television, minding my own business, when the news begins to play a clip of W. Bush's acceptance speech, which I hadn't heard. And while I was pretty sure it wasn't, going to be an eloquent speech, I wanted to hear what the man had to say. When in sachets another guest, a celebrity who shall remain nameless, excuse me, and without even asking, she just turned the channel. Oh, I can't bear to look at his weaselly old face. And oh, lordy, 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 black people are in trouble now. And all I said was, these guys were not that far apart ideologically. Well, then she turns into Linda Blair from The Exorcist. I mean, eyes bulging, head spinning, the whole 9 yards. And she rips into me, yelling. Okay, speaking passionately with volume. And sure enough, somehow she finds a way to blame all the world's problems on Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan destroyed the economy. Excuse me? Well, what do you think Reaganomics means? It means Ronald Reagan destroyed the economy. I'm sorry, you're mistaken. Then she goes from The Exorcist to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Oh, Republican, excuse me! May I have some assistance, please? You know what I should have said to her? I should have said, hey, baby, free your mind. Your ass will follow. Question! Who anointed some people the right to stand at the door, checking ideological credentials and ripping up membership cards? Answer. Me. 40 years. It has taken me 40 years to realize that my silence gave them power. My fear gave them power. And as for my membership card, whatever the hell that is, I've had it all along. It's right here. It's called an active and analytical mind. Yeah, that's right. JC is alive and well and living in West Hills. And he's buying a stairway to heaven. 20 years as an actor. And now when I show up on a set, that makeup trailer is filled with 100 different colors, from the darkest black to the lightest white. And there's not an actor in Hollywood who's scared to sit in that chair and let that makeup match their skin tone. When I think about the world of ideas 20 years later, when I think about us, how big we are, how complex, how huge, question, why then do we only allow ourselves like Negro? Free your mind. Your ass will follow.
Center to the Adams Mark Hotel West. It will be playing in the Mark II Ballroom in a tower west at the Adams Mark. Showtimes are still 8 p.m. Okay? That's tonight. Tonight only. This evening. It is Harriet's Return and Rights from America.
That's not ours.
It was playing in Anderson. Now it's at Adams Mark.
That's a gym facility.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah.